Anyone who played GTA The Lost and Damned will remember Johnny as a tough guy that does not fear anything. He's also got his strict rules and would mash up anybody who gets in his way, and if necessary, he would give his life for his gang and his people without a moment of hesitation. However, in GTA 5, so about 5 years after the events of GTA The Lost and Damned, we can recognize Johnny only by his looks. His confidence of steel and his feisty character is only a blurred memory. On our monitors, we'll see a softie that can't fight for what's his. In GTA 5, Johnny comes to Trevor's trailer to try and stop him from drilling his girl. And moments later, he almost ends up being drilled by this maniac with pubes on his head himself. Thank goodness that, in the end, we didn't have to witness that, cause then most of us would never be the same after seeing this.
Horror like that stays with you for life. Believe that.
Let's pose a question here. Was it a right move by Rockstar to conduct such a metamorphosis of this character? Or maybe they went a bit too far, and such a metamorphosis doesn't make a lot of sense. Is it possible for people to change so drastically? And did Johnny deserve it? First, let's recall who exactly was Johnny in GTA The Lost and Damned. Johnny initially was a vice president of the motorcycle gang The Lost, and to be more precise, of one of its factions, the one that was operating in the dark town of Liberty City. Johnny, as it's already been mentioned in the introduction, didn't fear nothing nor nobody. This guy simply had really sizable cojones. He regularly questioned the decisions made by his superior, so the president of the Lost, Billy Gray. And just to be clear, Billy was getting in discussions with Johnny. He wouldn't drop the subject, wouldn't just straighten him out, by telling him to shut up or something. It's quite important, as it confirms that Johnny was a very respected figure in the gang. He had a strong position and was making serious decisions. Or rather, let's just say that he had his say in all this, and he was an important link within the motorcycle club. Johnny also kept it very real. He was well aware that sometimes you have to take a difficult path to benefit in the longer run. This strict rationalism led to him becoming a person that was very serious and ruthless. He was able to unremorsefully kill Brian, the secretary of the Lost. And yes, Johnny didn't particularly like Brian, but that's not the point. The point is that these two were working together for a lot of time, and well, following the club's code, they were brothers. It's a similar case with Billy, who Johnny sent to hell at the very end of the game. And with Billy, just like Brian, Johnny wasn't on the greatest of terms. However, that was the case only during the game's story. By listening to the dialogue between the two, you can tell that at one time, their relationship was much better. And then we've got Jim, who in the latter part of the story was the most important soldier in Johnny's crew. Jim not only was a very important member of the club, but also a very close friend of the motorcycle DLC's main character. Jim was very likable. He was just the guy whose loss was just very difficult to accept, especially for those who were truly immersed in the story. Either way, Jimmy gets capped and the mission wasn't worth it, and after Johnny finds out about it from his ex, Ashley, he just takes it on the chin and is not going on about it for long. Johnny, despite losing such an important person, his best friend, in the end, in just a few seconds, was able to accept it and just move on as if nothing ever happened, still sticking to his plan and continuing to strive towards his goals. Just wow. Many people take Nico for a man that leaves bad experiences behind and just looks forward. If we assume that that's actually what Nico's like, then how to describe Johnny? Just look at Nico's reaction after a loss of someone close and compare it to Johnny's. It's just like, yeah, that sucks. A good guy went away, but I'll be fine. Staying on the topic of rational judgment, we should also mention Ashley. It was clear that Johnny loved Ashley a lot, but he was able to resist that. Despite that, he had very strong feelings for Ashley. He decides to let her go in his head because of her very advanced drug addiction and a complete lack of responsibility. Or at least, that's how it looked at the end of TLAD. Actually, this whole thing with Ashley brilliantly shows how strong Johnny was. His gang is falling apart. His real ones are going away. War after war. Jim's dead, and with all that on his chest, he's still able to reject Ashley, who promises him that she'll lay off the crystal and will get a grip. And it's not even about that. We, as passive spectators, can clearly tell that Ashley ain't ever gonna stop smoking. It's just that we have to get into Johnny's head and ask ourselves the question, wouldn't we accept such an offer and trust Ashley being in such a hopeless situation as Johnny was at the time? So I think all of us now can clearly see what kind of a person Johnny was in GTA The Lost and Damned. But what the hell is going on later in GTA 5 then? The metamorphosis is so huge that it's difficult to believe. It turns out that Johnny broke his promise and returned to a chick that would surely, without hesitation, sell him out for a couple of hits of crystal. I believe we're all familiar with the scene displayed on the screen right now. However, just in case if someone didn't exactly remember this moment, let's quickly recall what happened. At one time, Johnny found out that his lady was once again fulfilling her sexual instincts with Trevor to, by the way, maybe bump some drugs off him. Klebitz, mad angry, not just at Ashley but more at Trevor, which also doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but anyway, he goes to Trevor's trailer and starts shouting at him that it's wrong to be screwing his girl like that and all. Trevor doesn't take him seriously and is just having a laugh at him. After a while, to make an even bigger idiot of Johnny, he begins to pretend that he feels for him and understands his pain. And what does Johnny do then? Well, he completely falls apart and opens up to Trevor, apologizes him that he didn't mean it like that he just still loves Ashley. And Trevor banging her like that? Can you believe that? Johnny's hugging a guy that was just getting laid with his girl and opens up to him and apologizes. I mean, I'm sorry, I just can't even describe it. Like, what's that all about? Those who haven't played The Lost and Damned and haven't met Johnny before probably won't find this particularly shocking. Just some drug fiend came for his drug fiend woman and the maniac Trevor mashed up his head against the pavement. Simple. I mean, typical GTA moment, right? But those who have played TLAD and then see what on earth is going on in GTA 5, I'm sure that everybody, without an exception, rubbed their eyes in disbelief. The reason for which Johnny became who he became is obvious, and the reason is Ashley. Ashley and the drugs, to be precise, without which this woman couldn't function and to which she at some point got Johnny addicted. The most likely scenario here is that sometime after GTA The Lost and Damned, the couple reunited and moved to San Andreas. All this because Ashley probably at some point actually laid off the meth. Once Johnny seen this, he gave her another chance. And yes, it is quite strange because at the end of The Lost and Damned, if we call Angus, Johnny will tell him that he finally cut her loose in his mind and that he don't want to have anything to do with her anymore. But as we can see, it didn't work out quite like that in the end.
What about Ashley?
Ashley? The ice got her good. I finally cut her loose in my head, man. I don't know what's left for her other than that need to fuck up everything around her.
Either way, Klebitz probably fell head over heels in love with Ashley during her period of soberness following her rehab. However, over time, Ashley remembered how much she enjoyed smoking crystal. Johnny, who lost his mind about Ashley with so many problems and negative experiences, this time couldn't resist. See, in GTA 5, we find out that not only Ashley relapsed, but she also dragged Johnny into this stuff. And this stuff turned out to be a nail in this character's coffin. The drugs turned him into a complete wimp. So now that the whole story is clear in our minds, let's try and answer the question whether Johnny deserves such destiny from Rockstar. On one hand, it just doesn't seem right. Cause okay, like not only in GTA, but also in real life, as well as in other elements of culture, we will encounter numerous examples of a drastic change of a character. A good example would be Salvatore Leone, who in San Andreas was a confident don of the mafia, making brave decisions, whilst later in GTA Liberty City Stories or in GTA 3, he becomes paranoid, at times unpredictable, and sometimes making irrational decisions, like betraying Claude, let alone the moment when he completely lost his mind in GTA Liberty City Stories, thinking that his best soldier, Tony Cipriani, so a guy that would give his life for him, apparently was talking some rubbish about Salvatore behind his back. And okay, it all makes some sense. However, the scale of Johnny's change is much bigger. Bro, literally, from a stone-hearted tough guy turned into a miserable sissy boy. A guy who was against hard drugs became a dope fiend himself. It's seriously difficult to believe that Johnny got dragged into this stuff, especially that he had a great example of what happens to those who use it in Ashley. This just seems inexplicable. It's a bit like the situation of Vic Vance, who in 1984 told his brother that he won't touch drug trafficking again, and then 2 years later, he returned to the city in order to sell some snow to the Forelli's man, Tommy Vercetti. Rockstar wanted to show us here that love can crumble even the hardest of hearts. For me, it's absolutely obvious because Rockstar really likes to touch on the subject, the one about how strong love could be. Catalina and Claude in GTA 3 and San Andreas, Toshiko in Liberty City Stories, Margot in The Ballad, there's plenty of that in the series. Love threads in GTA are simply everywhere. And as much as I am able to believe that Johnny at some point surrendered to his feelings and came back to Ashley, even though he definitely shouldn't have, I cannot believe that he took on drugs. Johnny, back in Liberty City, was complaining all the time about Ashley's addiction. He constantly had to get her out of trouble. Ashley either got in debt with some Russians cause she needed to hit on Crystal again, or she was hanging out with some other crazy dopeheads. All this trouble was caused by nothing else than methamphetamine that was Ashley's biggest weakness. It also was the reason why Johnny had broke up with her to begin with. So what? You're telling me that Johnny suddenly forgot about all this and he decided to start smoking as well? Now that don't add up for me one bit, if I'm being honest with you. Hence, I think that yes, Rockstar wanted to teach us a valuable lesson in this thread, but it also feels like Johnny wasn't the right character to achieve this. On the other hand though, if Rockstar, instead of Johnny, put some next fella there, would the message be as strong? Cause the idea was to portray how strong love is, and that it can lead to a character committing things that he would never do under normal circumstances. And what type of character would be better to show it on than such a ruthless tough guy as Johnny was? In this case, the message is clear. I think that the fact that we like Johnny so much makes it hard for us to accept that his fate is like it is. So to summarize all this, I think that this story has two different ways of looking at it. On one hand, it seems as if such a tough guy as Johnny, even if he had the strongest of feelings for some candy sucks, or under the imperious curse conjured by Lord Voldemort himself, wouldn't be able to turn away from his principles so much and change 180 degrees. On the other hand though, Rockstar wanted to teach us a valuable lesson here, that love could change a person completely, even those who follow a very strict code, and the hardest conservatives. So yeah, it's cool that Rockstar wanted to teach us such a thing in this thread, but by doing this, they made Johnny a complete softie, someone who just simply didn't deserve it. I encourage you now to discuss this subject in the comments section, and I recommend watching the video explaining why Caesar was so important in CJ's life. Thank you for watching, take care, and see you soon.